Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have give you precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. It is going to remain really chilly as we do head into this next working week, but it should slowly turn milder later on in the week as we do start to see the westerly winds get unlocked, which could set up a pretty stormy final week or so of January. Now, of course, we are going to stay pretty dry the next day or two, but as we progressively get towards that westerly wind breaking through, it is going to get more and more unsettled as the pressure does start to drop. So there's a possibility of increasing areas of rain through this week. Not expecting anything massive at this stage, but perhaps more showers and a few little areas of persistent rain, especially in the south. And the possibility of maybe even a bit of winteriness as well. We've got cold surface temperatures, we've got reasonably cold upper air temperatures. So there could be a bit of winteriness around, but again, not expecting anything too major at this time. As we do into the longer range, it is looking like we are going to see a bit of a pest from the west pattern developing for the final week or so of January. We are going to see big storm systems heading our way. Still a lot of uncertainty on the intensities and timings of these big low pressure systems, as of course we have got that Scandinavian high, or at least higher pressure to our north and east, that is trying to maintain some hold through sort of the North Atlantic and Scandinavian area. But at the moment, it is very touch and go whether that is that sort of can sustain itself, as that will have a big impact on the passage of these low pressure systems. As that high pressure towards our northeast is stronger, the lows will be weaker and they won't make as much progress from the west. However, if that high pressure is pretty weak or even non-existent, then there'll be nothing stopping the big passage for these big low pressure systems straight across the UK, and at that point we could see something really quite severely stormy there for the final period of January. So of course we'll check that all out in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy the videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, to start on the live radar, it's a reasonably dry day today. However, we do have a few little patches of rain around, but it is very cold. Temperatures hardly getting above 2 or 3 degrees in many places, and the feel-like temperature is a lot colder. Now, this middle of the afternoon, look at this. For much of England and Wales, even into parts of southern and eastern Scotland, it is really chilly as we do see this continental flow coming in. We've not actually got that much cold air aloft. It's actually really only going to get down to slightly below average over the next couple of days. It's really not that cold in terms of the air mass, but we're seeing proper winter inversion taking place, where the surface temperatures do get a hell of a lot colder than what we would expect. And that's why these sort of colder days have really come out of nowhere. About a week ago, we probably thought it'd be maybe a bit chilly, but nothing major. But it slowly decreases as we got nearer to the time, as confidence had built in those exact wind directions and the exact pressure pattern as well. So remaining really chilly over the coming days. You can see it is milder in the west, closer to an Atlantic influence, and that Atlantic influence is going to become more and more widespread through this working week, but it's going to be a really slow transition before eventually, as I did say at the start of the video, the Atlantic is going to completely unlock and it will go exceptionally unsettled. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, we continue to have rain skirting to the west, but really not making too much of an influence for the next few days at least. And you can see a bit more rain around on Monday, but nothing major, a few patchy showers within a thicker cloud. Into Tuesday, again, a few patchy showers around, and maybe even a bit of persistent rain in a few spots, but not expecting anything too major. And then to Wednesday, could see some more persistent rain in the far southeast. Now, you would say, is there a possibility of this falling as snow? Now, at the moment, the temperatures look 1 or 2 degrees, so it's cold enough. The upper air temperatures are around freezing or just below freezing, which isn't ideal, but would be a possibility within this sort of air mass. But the dew points at the moment look like they will be above freezing, maybe only 1 or 2 degrees. Now, that is very close to freezing, so it's the realm of possibility that we could see a bit of winteriness within this band of precipitation, but the intensity doesn't look too high, and it would be very much dependent on evaporative cooling, lowering those dew points and surface temperatures. So at this stage, it's touch and go, really, but don't expect anything too major. It would be a surprise if we saw some snow within this, but it is a possibility. Only need a couple of degrees shift in some of those factors and there would be some winteriness falling in this. But at the moment, UKV is predicting rain within this little weather system. Later on in the week, into Thursday, we start to see the first signs of the Atlantic unlocking with the heavy rain starting to push in from the west, and it does, interacting with some of this cold air, could be a bit of snow in a few spots. And then look at this into Friday. Huge weather front arriving from the west. Again, the risk of a bit of snow on the leading edge, but you see big, massive wedge of milder air will be moving in, and quite a severe low does start to approach, and yeah, we are likely to go very unsettled as we do progress towards the end of the month. And of course, with those low pressure systems, we are expecting heavy rain, as we just saw, and some very strong winds as well. That will be something that we need to have a look at in a little bit more detail in the next few days, as we still are a little bit too far away to have much certainty with those exact wind gusts and intensities of these low pressure systems. But definitely looking stormy in some spots. Now, if you look at the temperatures this afternoon, really cold, hovering 1 to kind of 4 degrees, maybe 10 or 11 across the Republic of Ireland, where we don't have that cold continental influence. But for most, very chilly day, proper winter's day throughout this afternoon and into Monday. It's similar, but maybe slightly milder, more towards kind of 3 to 7 degrees, so more towards average, but still chilly. Overnight temperatures dropping back towards freezing, but not massively below freezing because of all of the thick cloud. And again, Tuesday afternoon, cold, not quite as cold as Sunday, but still 2 to maybe 7 degrees. And of course, there is the possibility of some alterations, those temperatures dropping. Then into Wednesday, another chilly morning, close to freezing overnight, but not massively below. And then by the afternoon, once again, another cold day, only kind of 1 to 5 degrees. And when that winteriness, or sorry, that rainfall arrives through Wednesday evening, you see the temperatures are touch and go, hovering around 1 to 3 degrees in that area to the north of the precipitation band. But as I said, it's those dew points which are still above freezing. Possibility that we could see a bit of freezing dew points mixing in, but at the moment, not looking like a real possibility. There's not much in the way of cold dew points nearby until as we head into Thursday. That's when the dew points do start to drop further. And into Thursday, a cold morning, and by the afternoon, still pretty chilly, kind of 4 to 7 degrees. And the evening, again, another very cold night. But I suspect into Friday, we'll be all turning milder and properly mild into Saturday, as we do see the big westerly winds starting to return. Now, if you look at that in detail on the latest GFS, you can see we're kind of in between weather systems with quite slow moving pattern over the next couple of days. No massive low pressure around, but no massive high pressure either. That means there's a few showers, but nothing too major. And it keeps us in this stagnant air, and that's why it remains fairly chilly. You see a bit of high pressure towards our north, which tries to hold off the Atlantic onslaught, but it doesn't have a lot of success. And you can see that really severe low moves through on Friday. So big storm system, potentially even a named storm there. That it would look really quite severe as that does move through. And then more further storm systems. You can see, though, high pressure is still to our northeast, which will try to hold off the jet stream. But in this latest GFS, it doesn't have much success, and instead we do have a bit of an Atlantic onslaught with loads of these big low pressure systems pushing through all the way into early Feb. No sign of it letting up here from the latest GFS. As I said, the only saving grace is if this high to our east can hold off strong enough, then perhaps we don't see the brunt of these storms. They perhaps could stay out to our west. But on this latest run, the majority of the time it looks like at least the weather fronts and some of the strongest winds do get in. So it does look like it will be pretty horrible. And we see that from the accumulated precipitation. Lots and lots of heavy rain. You can see where the lesser rain is to our east, only maybe 1,000 miles away. And I know that sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't too far. And if that high pressure does nudge slightly further northwards and westwards, then it could reduce this precipitation a bit. But you can just see the conveyor belt of moisture here within these low pressure systems heading straight for the UK. So yes, we've had a lot of wintry weather, a lot of ice, a lot of snow, and very cold conditions through much of January so far. But the end of January and start of February, it could be the time for perhaps flooding and heavy rain once again. So it's going to be one to keep a very close eye on. But yeah, these longer range forecasts from the GFS do not look good for precipitation. These widespread pinks and purples indicating many areas within the next couple of weeks could see in excess of 100 to maybe 150 millimetres, maybe even 250 millimetres for some parts of Western Scotland. Some even individual events could enhance this as well. Now, if you look at the latest GM, it's broadly very similar. We again see that very slow moving pattern over the next few days. High pressure to our northeast, not having too much success, and it doesn't really hold off these big severe lows. But again, high pressure to our south and our east hold off the main jet stream flow here into the longer range. So perhaps indicating that we could see something slightly drier. And you can see that by the jet streams, not this one continuous red or pink line. It's a bit splintered, and that's because we've got these high pressure systems that are kind of interlinking and holding off the main jet stream. It doesn't mean we're going to be dry at all. We are still likely to see a lot of rain. You can see the accumulated precipitation here out to day 10, showing an inch or more for many areas, even up to a lot more than that in quite a few spots. But the big thing we'll take away is that yes, the main heavy rain is a bit further westwards, all because the pressure to our south is holding these lows at bay. Only a little bit, only a slight few 100-mile adjustment, but it could make all the difference when it comes to disruption in the next couple of weeks. Now, to finish by having a look at the latest ECMWF, broadly very similar, very slow moving pattern, and then we do see those severe lows moving through, potentially a named storm there through Friday, looking like a real possibility, and then eventually more storm systems moving through, and again the possibility of further named systems. Little slightly tracking lows, but of course not looking at them in too much interest because, of course, we don't have cold air in place, so the most severe impacts we'd see for that is just a southerly shift in the disruption, focused more in the south than in the northwest. Eventually, look at this, we do see another Scandinavian high building in and easterly winds trying to push in. So ECMWF having another go at that big Scandinavian high. But we saw a few days of that earlier this week, but it now looks like it's completely disappeared from the model for the next kind of 10 days at least. Maybe longer range like the ECMWF shows here. But for the time being, most runs do have a bit of an Atlantic onslaught for at least 5 to maybe as long as 10 days here, to end January and start February. But I will say things can change very quickly. So yes, these charts don't look optimistic if you want a bit of dry conditions or cold conditions, or I said continuation of cold conditions, or even a bit more snow throughout the rest of winter. They don't look encouraging, but things can change very, very quickly. So yeah, don't lose all hope if this does look pretty bleak, this very westerly dominated pattern. Now, to finish by looking at the latest ensembles, you can see we are starting to see these dips and these peaks and troughs within the flow, and that is indicative of these severe lows that are moving through with big warm sectors and cold sectors. Not seeing massive temperature swings, but still swings of 5 to maybe as much as 10 degrees, and that does allow these big lows to really develop. Chilly over the next few days and dry, but you can see probably around Wednesday, Thursday, that's when the heavy rain starts to arrive, and then it looks pretty persistent into end January and start February. Upper air temperatures look hovering around average, slightly above, slightly below at times, so we're not expecting a massive mild spell with this. The jet stream does look slightly southerly tracked, so it's not one of these where we will be on the mild side of the jet stream, we will be on the cold and mild side, depending on the positioning of the low and any amplification we see. So not expecting a massive mild spell. There will be milder weather within it, but there equally will be some chilly conditions. So not expecting those temperatures to massively increase, but they probably won't be as frigid as they are right now. And we can see that on these 2-meter temperature charts. Again, cold over the next few days, but longer term, we're more around that sort of 7 to 9 degree mark, back towards average, or maybe slightly above average, maybe 11 or 12 in some of the milder sectors, 4 or 5 in some of the colder sectors. So kind of evening out, so as I said, that mid to high single digit range, kind of around what we'd expect, maybe slightly above average for some spots. If we look at the dew points, you can see generally around freezing or above freezing, so indicative of more moist Atlantic air masses. Some colder here, but really nothing too much. If we were going to see a proper cold spell, we'd be seeing the dew points well below freezing. A proper easterly wind down to -5 or -10, so you can see not too much support here from the GFS ensembles. And if we finish by looking at the ECMWF ensembles, very up and down, very similar to the GFS, hovering around average and below average. You get that little spike there in around 6 days' time. That's perhaps that named storm that could arrive through Friday. That does look really severe there, or starting to look more severe. And yeah, just a very unsettled up and down pattern to end January. And again, you can see this with the sea level pressure slowly dropping over the coming days as the westerly winds unlock, and then you see it's low pressure dominated as we do progress, with some real big dips here, like Friday. As I said, that really severe low can move through, and of course we're looking at London here where the centre moves through, which will be likely further north and westwards, the pressure could get down to 960 millibars. That's what some of the models were showing. So yeah, we have to keep a very close eye on that system. Could be really lively there later on this week. But for the time being, it's chilly, pretty frigid, with the bits and bobs of rain around. But as we head to the end of this working week, that's where it could get really disruptive indeed. So do stay tuned. For the looks of it, I'm expecting to see some warnings issued in the next few days for both wind and rain. And hopefully that high pressure to our northeast could hold the jet stream at bay. But at the moment, the trends towards unsettled stormy conditions are not looking too positive. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you again for another video soon.